We're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
Hey, if you're not doing anything later, maybe swing by SETI Alpha 5. We've got everything: alien invasions, wild boars, and SETI eels. You know that thing that crawls in your ear, wraps itself around your brain? It's 7 o'clock Pacific. It's Monday night. We're here. You are there with us. It's Mission Log Live. I'm John Champion.
And I am Charlene Schmidt, and tonight we are talking about Star Trek Con with co-writer and executive producer Kirsten Beyer. But audio dramas are just one of the things that she's done lately. I mean, Kirsten has her finger in a lot of the Star Trek pies. You might also know her from the Voyager novels, which is just a couple from my bookshelf because the stack is honestly so high I could not carry them all. And also has her hand in recent live action Trek and basically does a little bit of everything. Audio dramas just being the latest one of those.
Star Trek pie is the best pie. Thank you for mentioning that, Char. Look, everybody out there, you know the drill by now. All opinions are welcome here. We cannot wait to chat with you and introduce you to our very special guest. It is time to return to SETI Alpha 5. We get to check in on Khan and crew and see what we might learn along the way. So you know what to do. Click on the Zoom link. Earl is there in the Earl Green room, and then you'll be live with us to chat about Star Trek Con. Char, you were very excited about this. I am excited. But we did a little preview at LA Comic-Con last week, mentioning
We sure did.
Star Trek Con as part of the pantheon of current Trek projects. And you did not hold back on your enthusiasm for this project at all.
Look, man, I never do.
No, do not.
But especially about this project because ever since Star Trek Con debuted, I was just mentioning I have been all in since episode 1. I love everything about this, from the story to the casting to the sound design. It is all so good.
Yeah, it's excellent. And what a great way to maintain a bit of Star Trek and your pop culture consumption when we're in between series. You got this whole other thing to dig deep into the story between we'll get into the timeline a little bit because I love something very clever and very specific about how this is done. So we'll get to it. By the way, of course, now is the right time to call in so you can talk to us, talk to Kirsten. We want to mention that tonight's chat is going to have spoilers, but it will only have spoilers up through episode 5. We're not going to put anybody on the spot to talk about anything that comes after that. We're not going to wrap it all up for you in a bow tonight, but we are going to talk about whatever specifics you want to get into from those first 5 episodes. So anything there is certainly fair game to talk about. But before we do that, Char, why don't we say hello to folks in the chat?
Yeah, let's do that because as always, the chat is hopping. Just want to say hi to David Takechi, Laura Hess, Cheyenne, hello, Paul W., Peter Archibald, Mike Richards. Hey, Captain Mike.
Hey, Captain Mike, right on.
Matt and Luke's Sci-Fi Sanctuary is here. Hello.
Nice.
And of course, Brian, BC, Alan Moraine.
God, every time.
I know.
Every time.
I know.
All right. All right.
And thank you all for the love in the chat. It's great to be here tonight.
Yeah. By the way, happy belated birthday to David Takechi. So nice to have you here with us. And I noticed that Laura said that she has rewatched Space Seed and Wrath of Khan and Into Darkness in order to kind of get herself prepped for talking about Star Trek Con.
Woo! Very good.
Yeah. So everybody who is there in the chat, we want to remind you of kind of how YouTube does this. So every like, every chat and super chat during the live show, that boosts our visibility, helps more Star Trek fans find us in real time. So if you're watching live, hit thumbs up, say hi in the chat, welcome new folks because you're all nice and you do that anyway. And keep those transmissions coming through, okay?
Yeah. Yep. Use the system in favor of us, not against us.
Exploit it. All right.
Work that system.
Let's talk really quickly about what's coming up on Roddenberry Podcast this week. So there is so much happening. By the way, we've gotten a lot of email in the last week about a service disruption from our hosting company. It was a shock to us too. But it appears that all of our episodes are back now. This is not us pulling the plug on 13 years worth of Mission Log or any other shows. This was something that happened from our hosting company. So wherever you go to get our shows, Apple, Spotify, if you just pick it up through Patreon, we apologize. Again, not something that we did, certainly not on purpose, but those back catalog shows should be back now. And thanks for listening, especially thanks for listening to the old stuff. I'm glad that people still pick it up. Yep.
Apparently people are still looking if they're finding out that old episodes were not there for a little while.
I guess so. All right,
Wow.
on Mission Log, Human Error is out right now. And on Thursday, we drop Q2. So we're coming up toward the end of Voyager. Cannot wait to wrap it all up with Norman in a few weeks. Genealogy is back today with an incredible find. Okay, a year ago, Earl and Norman covered the unfilmed pilot that Gene Roddenberry wrote about the life of Sam Houston, and now we've got some news. We have an update. They actually filmed the pilot, and we didn't know because there was no other record of it here at Roddenberry Entertainment or anywhere else. But detective that he is, Jeff Joseph, aka Sabukat on YouTube, found that show. So a year later now, Earl and Ashley have reviewed it, and now they are sharing their thoughts with you, so you can listen and you can watch with the link to the show conveniently embedded in the show notes. This makes me so happy that we do a lot of detective work here with Gene's files, and then we get to correct and update the record when new information comes along. So thank you to everybody who made that happen. We're just completing the picture of Gene's pre-Star Trek work and obviously well into Star Trek. Shar, what else is coming up this week?
Well, with the Trek Files, last week we published an interview with returning guest Adam Costco about the Borg as a help and hindrance to lore building. See what we did there? And this week, Adam is back with a look at Star Trek, the animated series. And we have an early review from September 1973 as the document of the week. And Adam puts it in context as Star Trek was being reinvented for a new audience for the first time. So get this, get Mission Law, get all of your Roddenberry podcasts at podcast.roddenberry.com, and you'll now see the whole lineup.
Yeah, the whole damn thing.
The whole damn thing.
All right. So with that, let us say hello to our guest tonight, Kirsten Beyer. Just to remind all of you, Kirsten has got producer credits on, shows like Discovery and Picard and Strange New Worlds, and now Khan, the audio series that we're all listening to, writing credits with all of those shows and with Star Trek novels that... Shar, you were so happy to show off a moment ago. Yeah. So to remind everybody again, we're talking about Star Trek Con. We're talking about the first 5 episodes. I believe episode 5 just came out this morning. So hopefully you got caught up because there's some pretty cool things that got revealed in that episode. Yeah. So without further ado, Kirsten, welcome to Mission Log Live.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really great to be here.
We are excited to talk Trek with you. And Shar, I may as well just say you should have the first crack at this with whatever questions are burning that you cannot wait any longer to get a straight answer from Kirsten Beyer herself.
Oh, John, trust me, this is a very pared down list of questions. If you had to have bailed out of the show for some reason, I could have filled the whole hour just by myself.
I have no question about that at all.
I am exercising so much restraint right now. But how about we start from the very bare bones beginning? Because I think a lot of people, when this project was first announced way back when, it was supposed to be a live action miniseries, and it was a Nick Meyer story, and eventually got into your hands, Kirsten, with David Mack, and became an audio drama. How did that happen?
Well, it actually became an audio drama before it got into my hands. And I don't know. I don't honestly know what the thinking was around that, or why that decision was made. But I knew they were talking about doing it as a series. I mean, going back to like 2017, 16 maybe.
A while, yeah.
Yeah. And then, like everybody else, I found out on Star Trek Day, like 2022.
Yeah.
that it was going to be a series, and I was like, oh, that sounds exciting. I mean, I'm not sure if No Man's Land, which was our first audio drama for Star Trek in a while, that was done through our license with Simon and Schuster, was out yet. I don't remember what the release date was on that, but we were already and had been talking for a little while about dipping our toes into this space. And so Simon and Schuster's choice was to do something attached to the Picard series. And so I ended up writing that with Mike Johnson. And that was the first time I'd ever done an audio drama. And it was a lot of fun. So I came into this around 2 years ago now. They had been working for a little over a year on the 9 scripts that were going to be the podcast. And they were facing some challenges in terms of canon and how to make sure that the story that Nick wanted to tell was gonna fit in with all of the 900 plus hours of Star Trek that exist now that did not exist when he first started writing Star Trek.
Small challenge.
So for the last 2 years, this has been a big part of my life and my work.
No doubt.
I wanted to, ask a little further about that, because when I hear your name and I hear David Mack's name, and of course, Nick is the one who sort of birthed the current version of Khan that we get. Anything after 1982, that's his. When you came into a show like this and you were tasked with connecting this to canon, but also telling an original story, I mean, what do you do? That just sounds like the most daunting thing to me.
Well, it's like any other story, though. You sort of start at the beginning, and you're like, what is the purpose of this story? Why are we doing this? What are we about here? And even though it hadn't occurred to me, because I honestly hadn't thought that deeply about it until it was put in front of me, the first and most obvious thing is that the Khan that we see in Space Seed is not really the Khan that we meet in Wrath.
Yes.
I probably, by the time I saw Wrath when I was a kid in the theaters and was destroyed by it, I don't even think I may not even have seen Space Seed, because we were watching the original series on TV as kids, and it was like in the afternoons, whatever came up. I'm not 100% sure I'd seen Space Seed. I saw it, I know, definitely later, but so that didn't occur to me, didn't really bother me. And then I'm rewatching Space Seed, and I'm like, wait a minute, this guy was not angry. I mean, yes, he had lost the ship and his takeover hadn't worked out, but he seemed to be in a pretty good mood as he was heading down to Ceti Alpha. How did it all go so wrong? I mean, apart from the things that we know from the film that clearly bad stuff happened.
Sure.
That's one of my favorite things about this series, though, is it's connecting a story that a lot of us, certainly as Star Trek fans, are familiar with. Takes something that's already familiar and then adds to it, and helps us connect from Space Seed to the guy we meet in The Wrath of Khan, and gives so much more context to how that person in the past became that person in the movie.
Yeah, that was the goal.
Yeah, well, and I love the specificity of that. As I alluded to in the intro, this you keep kind of pinpointing within the series, for those of you who are all listening, of course, and if you haven't, make sure you go back and pick up these details, but putting a very fine point on where we are in the timeline, that this is about 9+ years after the events of Wrath of Khan. This is, I think they say, 3 months after Kirk has died, which was when we kick off this mission to go to Ceti Alpha 5. So we know where in time and space Tuvok is and Captain Sulu of the Excelsior. And then when we start listening to those, the tapes, the logs of Khan and crew, that also puts us very specifically in time and space, because we know down to the day, say, hey, this is about 30 days after they were marooned on Ceti Alpha 5. Hey, this is about 60 days. This is however many days. And you can really start to put this very vivid picture together in your head. And I love that pretense of knowing where we are kind of in the present of the series, but then also knowing through those tapes and through the, as I call them, kind of dramatic reenactments, where we are on the journey with Khan after landing at Sid Alpha 5. It helps me to kind of keep the story organized and patch it all together between Space Seed and Wrath of Khan, which is the whole point, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I know that Shar, you've got a million questions. I've got a million questions. Our listeners have questions. So let's
We
go
should
over
let
to
them
our,
do one.
we should, yeah. Let's go over to our first caller, Mark. By the way, now is a great time to click on the Zoom link, chat with Earl, then drop into the chat with us. So, Mark, welcome to the show, and tell us what is on your mind tonight.
Hello, John and Shar. I just wanted to say I brought your ride. Here you go.
Oh, hey!
Here's your
Yeah.
Reliant. I brought the ride for you guys to
Nice.
Thanks.
get off the podcast later.
Where are we going?
Yeah.
Some nebula. I've heard.
Vancouver, if we're lucky.
Ooh,
You know.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I might actually take you to a Regular One space station, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
Oh my.
My question I wanted to come on and ask was, we've really seen how audio dramas have been revitalized a lot of stuff. For example, Doctor Who with Big Fish has revitalized a lot of the Doctor Who and kept it going for many years. For example, today many people consider the Sixth Doctor. Big Fish fixed a lot of the issues that the Sixth Doctor had that he didn't have a chance to when they canceled him. So my question is how hard is it to live up to companies like Big Fish doing this, especially when you have to navigate Conan instead of canon, Conan. And as John said, do the original drama with also knowing that compared to even 5, 10, 15 years ago, audio dramas are much more considered a much neater thing to do things compared to the past. Did that, put a lot of pressure on you guys to figure out how to deliver something?
I wouldn't say that knowing that there are amazing audio dramas out there already put pressure on us, because we're already playing in one of like the biggest sandboxes and most challenging sandboxes that really exists in our sort of pop culture history. So the pressure is always incredibly intense. And I honestly, apart from, my early conversations with Fred and with Realm and beginning to understand what they needed from me in terms of the script, in terms of cues of like, what do you think we're hearing? How, which generation of phaser or, door or transporter or whatever is this, that kind of stuff. For me, the pressure was to tell this story in the most exciting and compelling way possible. And there were a lot of moving pieces to keep track of. And at the same time, like, I got to tell you, in the first several versions of our outlines for this piece, as we took what Nick had and then we're sort of adding all the things we felt like it really, really needed, there was far more story than we were ever going to be able to tell in 9 episodes. So the challenge actually became taking all of these incredible ideas that seemed very relevant to the story and very important to it, but streamlining them so that you could make it simple and clear, not just for any audience, but specifically for people who are only going to be able to hear it. Like that's in some ways it's the hardest part, because as a screenwriter, you're always thinking, what am I looking at? Like always, that's guiding the process. In this, you have to close your eyes and go, literally, all I can do is listen. So what is going to tell me where I am, what time of day it is, how many people are here, what everybody's doing? Like all these things you have to bring to every scene. So that was the hard part. The response to it, where it fits in terms of how many amazing audio dramas there are out there right now, I can't ever let myself think about that stuff because I'll just go crazy. So all I can do is kind of like focus on what I got and do the best version of it I can.
So was that the biggest challenge of doing an audio drama as opposed to writing a novel or a screenplay? Just the different sensory experience?
Yeah, it absolutely is. There are so many things that the visuals communicate for you. I mean, particularly and most specifically with the dialogue and the actors. We work with amazing actors in Star Trek, and they can tell you everything you need to know in a look. So, but when you don't have that there for you, the dialogue becomes everything. You can't just tell people this is what's happening right now. I mean, you could say, well, I just walked into your quarters, Marla. How's everything? You know, but you like
Right.
nobody's going to enjoy that. That's going to take them out of the experience of feeling like they're living the story along with these characters. So, excuse me. So yeah, the hardest part is figuring out how to make all of that clear and still make it feel like you're just eavesdropping on this conversation between two people that they would, you know, be having in any event.
Yeah, I was trying to kind of wrap my head around that from a creative standpoint. Obviously, as a novelist, you have the ultimate creative freedom there because anything you want to describe, you can put on the page. With a live action TV show or a movie, yes, you can describe a visual, but then ultimately you're up against budget, you're up against the physical limitations of that film, but you still have the visual as part of the message. When Star Trek went to animation, of course, that freed them up being able to show whatever kind of visual they wanted to that they couldn't do back in the original series in the 60s. So that was a new kind of medium, but of course it came with its own limitations as well, you know, and if you're filmation, you're doing 12 frames a second, well, forget it, you know. But audio drama seemed like a really unique set of challenges in order to get across what you just described. We need time and place, we need setting, we need characters who can express the drama without the audience being able to see them. And I wondered, like, I asked myself, was there any point in developing something like this, do you or Dave Mack or any of the other writers say, ooh, you know what we could use here is a narrator. We could use a, you know, another voice here to kind of drop us into where we are. Fortunately, I think with a lot of the log recordings, you kind of get that and you kind of get description from the characters. But I'm just curious, yeah, were there roadblocks or maybe solutions that you abandoned along the way to tell the story this way?
You know, I'm so used to having that narrative tool of the captain's log or the personal log, and for God's sake, we have two historians in this thing.
Yeah,
So,
right.
so I felt like we were going to have more than enough of that. I think that the sort of horse trading is not exactly the word I think I'm looking for here, but it's close. That sort of went on through the process, had more to do with how much do we allow our audience to be a little bit confused, maybe at the very beginning of something, knowing that eventually they will get there. How much do we trust them to stay engaged long enough to actually get to the thing? Because, like, it's a better experience for them if you don't use things like that. Because the narrator, the minute you can't keep pulling your attention in and out of the story. Once you get into it, you need to be able to follow it through. But that means sometimes a scene is going to start and people are going to be like, wait a minute, who's that again? And do I know their name? And what do they want? And when was last time? You know what I mean? So you have to, just like for me, I've been writing in the Star Trek universe for 20 something years now. And I know that Star Trek fans are among the smartest consumers of media out there. And I trust them implicitly.
And very detail oriented.
Yeah, very much so, but in a good way. Like, I am too. I have to be, right? So, you know, but there were a lot of times along the way where people were less trusting it, where they were like, can we just make it a little bit more clear with it? And so figuring out how to do that for them without falling back on things that were ultimately going to take you out of the story was maybe one of the biggest challenges. Because of course you want it to be clear, and it's so vivid in my head, but everybody else is out there working with me to make sure that it's going to be vivid in other people's heads that aren't mine. And I trust implicitly that, you know, if they tell me something's not clear, then they mean it. But then figuring out how to address that was always the challenge. Yes, there were times when it would have been very easy, but we don't do the easy. Like we just that's never what we reach for first.
Right. I can almost see that working as a crutch in a way if you had gone that route. So I'm really glad you didn't.
Yeah, I mean, so much of the audio drama, the pleasure of it is the words, right? And having the words be attached to the emotions of a character is way more interesting than just giving us information, which is what the logs or a narrator would tend to do.
Yeah, that was a smart way to give more context because it's so organic. It's very natural to what is like just a story, as opposed to the narrator, deliberately pulling you in and out and telling you, well, last time the blah 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 blah. Here's what's happening, and let's go see what Khan and Marla are up to now. Just no.
Yeah.
By the way, in the chat, Wanda says the voice actors are amazing. Such talent. Definitely agree with you there. And I believe it was Paul who says we want 26 episodes.
You know what I want? I want more audio dramas after this. I feel like Star Trek Con is a proof of concept that, hey, this is a great entry point. We're doing something familiar. Now branch out a little bit. Do something maybe a little less familiar or do something completely new entirely. It's like a whole other universe unto itself. And you can do anything if you want.
And, as somebody who is not a big audiobook listener, I have to admit that when we covered Dave Mack's Firewall, that was produced beautifully. The voice acting was incredible. It absolutely held my attention rapt. And that seems like a nice sort of adjunct, that kind of storytelling versus this kind of storytelling. Star Trek can easily do more of this. So yes, let's see more for sure. Mark, and there it is. Thank you, Mark, for the visual aid. Star Trek Picard Firewall. I enjoyed that quite a bit. Hey, before we take a quick break, Mark, and do our mid-show business, is there any final thought or a question or comment that you have for our guest?
I just wanted to say, as a bibliophile, I always loved being able to pick up a Star Trek book, including reading yours. In my undergrad, in my misbegotten youth, I worked as a page at a library for 10 years, from 2006 to 2016. And I always enjoyed the chance to see when a new Star Trek book, including several of yours, came along. So I appreciate the relaunch series for being able to come along and see what these characters are doing up until we learned that, it's an alternate timeline and they all had to stop doing it, but that's neither here nor there. That's an entire another discussion. But, Star Trek, a lot of the time was very important for me when I read and has defined a lot of who I am as an urban planner today. And some of your books that you did in like Full Circle, I absolutely loved. It's still one of my favorite relaunch ones. Thank you for being able to do that. Just as the man who's about to finish book 42 of trying to read 52 books this year. So thank you for that.
Bravo.
Well,
excellent,
thank you
Mark.
so much for saying that. And I appreciate you too. I mean, librarians are I understand you're doing the planning now, but libraries are everything. And that's incredible work. And I'm just so glad I was able to, be a part of a good experience for you.
All right, Mark, take care. Have a great night. And we'll see you next time. All right. Take care, my friend.
See ya.
By the way, I wanted to give a shout out here to somebody in the chat, Patrick, who earlier in the broadcast said, I'm a longtime subscriber, mostly a lurker, but Star Trek Con has compelled me to join the live show. So, Patrick, you're very welcome. Glad to have you here. And anybody who has not yet called in who wants to, please do so. And those of you in the queue, we will get to you very shortly. Shar, though, and Kirsten, if you will indulge us, just a quick bit of reminder business for our audience. So, look, before we beam into the second half of our show, a quick note from the bridge. By the bridge, I mean Shar. Right?
I'm in that center seat. Yes, I am. Keeping it warm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so look, this is the last Mission Log episode, or Mission Log Live of the season. And before we go on hiatus, we've got one final mission for all of you.
Yep, you've heard us talk about it. The Roddenberry podcast listener survey is still live, but only until October 10th. So if you've been meaning to fill it out, this is your last chance to help shape what comes next.
Yeah, you have that power. Come on, it takes just a few minutes. And when you're done, you'll get a secret code that unlocks your entry to win a TOS film cell plaque. This is cool. This is actual 35 millimeter film frames from the original series. And we're giving away multiple of them, and no two are alike. You're
Nope.
getting a true one of a kind.
Yep, that's it. Once they're gone, that's it. The link is in the show notes and in the live chat right now, so go do it.
Yeah, go do it now. And if you're wondering where our conversation goes when we're off air, well, look, it does not stop. Our Discord server is active 24/7 with Trek Talk, live chats, watch alongs. You name it, we do it, and it is exclusive for our Patreon supporters. If you're not there, go there. Be a part of this. It's amazing.
What are you doing with your life? Exactly.
I don't
And
even
look,
know what you're doing if you're not there.
when we're not streaming, the community is still going strong. Join us over there by visiting patreon.com/missionlog or just click the link again in the chat.
And speaking of the stream, if you're watching live tonight, hey, look, one more reminder. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up, drop a message in the chat, send a super chat. Every click and comment helps more Trek finds us while we're live and keeps this party hopping even more than it already is.
Exactly. So look, before we close hailing frequencies for the season, fill out the survey, join us on Discord, and stay subscribed right here on YouTube so you're ready when we return for Starfleet Academy in 2026.
That's right. So thanks for being with us. And now let's get back to it because we got more callers. We got more questions. Come on.
By the way, I saw Kirsten perk up when we talked about those TOS film cells. Kirsten, do you not have any?
I don't, and I'm like, so I need to go fill out this survey now. And
Well,
you're gonna have to
I might know a
deets
guy.
on that.
I might know a guy. But
Even better. But I'm saying I'll fill out the survey. Like,
yeah,
that's all.
please
Hey,
do.
cool.
Please do. Look, here's what's so great is that this room that I'm in, this building that I'm in, that is Roddenberry Entertainment, it would not be here if not for Gene and Majel and Bijo and John Trimble back in the day picking up those little film clips that literally just got cut and dropped on the cutting room floor over at Paramount, at the time Desilu, and selling those for like 50 cents, $1, something like that, in the Lincoln Enterprises catalog. So no two are alike because they can't be. It is, purely one of a kind. And then Rod had the very good sense to make some plaques, some acrylic plaques out of those, which we give to guests and to listeners and people who participate in a survey. And then Holly, our archivist, actually came in and over the course of like 2 years, organized the clips frame by frame based on episode. Now, there are still some that we don't know because they're a little too generic, but she did an amazing amount of detective work to capture exactly where they belong. And yeah, absolutely incredible. But those numbers are running low. So I go in there now and I pull out a folder and you go like, oh, wait, there's only one from this episode now, or maybe only one from this other. So that's it. That's it. Kirsten, we'll talk. Well,
Are there any from Space Seed? Just
Hey, that would be fitting.
I mean, it kind of feels like it now.
When you were saying that, I was kind of thinking to myself, I very clearly remember seeing the motion picture in theaters. I very clearly remember seeing Wrath of Khan in theaters and being devastated by the end of that movie. Roll around several months later, Gene Roddenberry came to my hometown, gave a speech. The only thing anybody, including myself in that audience, wanted to know was, is Spock coming back? So it was very much a major concern. I had watched a lot of Star Trek as a kid, but I don't remember if I had seen Space Seed. And it might have been quite a long time later. I had those VHS copies of maybe about a dozen episodes that I watched over and over and over again. But that was getting into the late 80s. That's after Wrath of Khan. So I might have had a similar journey and just thought, yeah, this is the Khan that I know for a number of years. So fascinating to fill in the story. Yeah.
I've got the same story. I watched 2 before going back and watching Space Seed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Now we.
I was going to say, probably the biggest difference between us is that after I saw Wrath of Khan, it didn't occur to me for a second that Spock would come back. Spock was dead. Like, and I was so devastated by that, but also at the same time, like, as a viewer, so like into it is the wrong word, intrigued, but it was like, oh right, people do die, and like that can happen, and that it destroyed me. But it never occurred to me that he would come back.
Okay, wait, we're going off topic.
Sorry.
But no, I want to. I'm decreeing as host of this show that we are going off topic. Because, all right, now I get to bend the ear of a writer. In 1982, when Wrath of Khan came out and Spock died, same thing. That there was the question floating around in fandom for well over a year: is Spock going to come back? Is this last? How could they possibly kill off Spock? And still to this day, I watch that movie and we get to the end, and I can't help but get choked up because all of those emotional moments are so earned. And even though I know what's coming next, I still lose myself in the emotion of that story. Now we've got more than 40 years of Trek that has come after that. And I wonder, as a writer, do you look at that 40 years after and go, you know what, every time we kill off a character, does it lose some of that emotional impact? Because now the precedent is there that in Star Trek specifically, but in science fiction in general, you can just kind of go back and revive a character. They're not really dead, just wait for the cliffhanger to be over. And I don't know, I find myself playing that sort of home game now when I watch Trek in particular.
Yeah, we have a similar problem, which is I firmly believe that death should be real and should matter.
Yeah.
That if you're going to put an audience through that, there's got to be a reason, and you do have to earn it, as you said. And then it that should be the end of it. Which is not to say that, because we also have this delightful tradition in Trek of actors playing multiple roles. Sure. So people coming back in other ways always makes me a lot happier than just straight up resurrection. And I say that as the lady who wrote The Eternal Tide and the Discovery episode, and why is the name of it escaping me right now, where Culber came back. Apparently
right, yes.
People come to me for resurrections. I don't know. I'm like, I really am the last person who wants to be doing this, guys. Like, why are we doing this?
Look, it's sci-fi. It happens.
Yeah.
It does happen, and then it becomes sort of a joke in the room. Like, people, this actor found out they're going to get killed off, and it's like, give me a minute. Like, it's going to be, I can't tell you exactly how they're going, but I guarantee you death is only the beginning in Star Trek. Which is cool, except for the part where the minute a character dies, you're sort of like, and you should never feel that way about death. So
usually my question now is it really?
Mm-hmm.
It takes me a while to buy it, and then when it is real, then it hits. But it takes me a hot second just because I've been fooled so many times before.
Yeah.
I always assume now that it's not, and that's tragic in its own way.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure. By the way, thank you everybody in the chat for all the Khan puns. They're really working. So well done there. Let's go to our next caller. Peter, thank you for waiting patiently. And what is on your mind tonight about Khan? Or you can just totally derail the show like I did and talk about something else.
Yeah, I do enjoy the off, topic discussion. That's a lot of fun about sci-fi characters coming back from the dead. I was just thinking, totally different franchise. With the show Chuck. Don't know if y'all saw that. But I was thinking about how they killed off Chuck's dad, and I was expecting them to bring him back somehow. Because resurrections happen in sci-fi.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as to the audio drama, it's an interesting look at how Khan gets from Kirk did us a favor to I want to kill him.
Yes.
Yeah.
So seeing exactly where that went from. And our historian questioning, okay, what did he know and when did he know it? Is it kind of an interesting look at it. So I'm enjoying the the podcast. I think it's a lot of fun. It's the theater of the mind. So it allows us to fill in the details that we might not have otherwise had. So it's really working. Looking forward to seeing how he finishes getting to that part.
Yeah, it's a bit of a journey.
Peter, I'll pose a question to you that I dare not pose to our guest because she already knows the outcome. But so far, kind of midway through, are you leaning toward Khan as the misunderstood creator slash politician slash leader of his people, or psychopath with delusions of grandeur? Are those things mutually exclusive? Or are you saying one more than the other? Or are you just sort of along for the journey to see how he ends up there?
Yeah, because he starts more optimistic within his group. It's like, let's do this. And then, yeah, he becomes that other thing at the end. So I think to a certain extent, again, yes. It's just going to be more of that the later we get in. More of the psychopath.
Yeah.
I feel like both of these things are true.
Yeah.
And it is interesting seeing a super soldier get knocked down by circumstance that transforms his mind into the guy we meet in Star Trek II, who's just out for vengeance. And now you kind of understand why, at least from his perspective, why he is so damn angry.
I mean,
you've only seen 5 episodes. You actually don't.
Okay, fair. This is true. I don't even have no idea. How are we going to get to
why he's so angry yet?
Well,
oh my, okay.
We'll reach out in 4 weeks.
Right, but dear Kirsten, oh my God. Now I understand what you meant.
Yeah,
I have a feeling, I have a hunch on what that might be, but I'll listen and find out.
It's a very, well, obviously, it's a very Star Trek story, though, where you take somebody who is potentially heroic with a principled position and push them so far to see, all right, at what point will the principles still take root or will they break? And, Shar, you've been with us along for this ride in Voyager, and there are many times we've asked ourselves, wait a minute, why did Janeway break there? Why did she make these decisions, become this person we didn't want to see? Oh, okay, we're going to fix that later because she is heroic, she is Starfleet. But now you have a character like Khan, and we know the outcome with Khan in Wrath of Khan. So we can have a lot of fun playing with that journey, getting up to that resolution that we know. And you can
exactly.
See that, right?
It's all about how we're getting there.
Yeah. How much can he take? And I guess, Kirsten, that is a question that I hear very often thrown at Star Trek and thrown at Star Trek writers. For example, you have this show that you have also been a part of, Strange New Worlds, and you go, okay, Pike, we know exactly what happens to Pike. So how many stories are there to tell? How many ways are there to slice this pie to keep telling engaging stories where we want to be along on the journey, yet we know what his fate is? Is that a help? Is it a hindrance? Is it just more par for the course?
I mean, it is part of the job. So there's that aspect of it. But I have to tell you, as somebody who does this all day long, it's not even a little bit of a concern that we know how his story is going to end, or we think we know exactly how his story is going to end. Because as with Khan, Pike is not at all defined by the manner of this last tragedy of his life. And it's actually not even his death. Like he's,
right.
He's alive on Talos and like whatever.
Right.
So none of us are defined by our best day or our worst day. We are all complex, complicated human beings, and there are infinite facets of our lives that can make for good and compelling story. So I just don't find that intimidating at all. It's actually a little harder with Khan, there is an end, and you know there's a target you have to hit. But no, people are all the things. It's one of the reasons. I mean, as in some of the commentary that I'm hearing about Khan so far, there's a lot of like, but he's a bad guy. That's all we need to know about him. And I'm like, what? Like,
No, listen to this podcast. It's so much more nuanced than that.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
and like nobody's, maybe a few sociopaths, but the vast majority of people that history remembers as bad did not wake up every morning and go, I'm a bad guy and I'm going to do bad things.
Right.
Like, that's just not how human beings function. They all think they're doing the right thing, right? And
Yeah.
Exactly.
in the case of Khan's followers, they've been with him for, well, hundreds of years now, even though they slept through a lot of them.
Mhm.
Like, from their point of view, he can do no wrong. Like, it's not, I just don't understand it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as Norman very often says on the show, you know, the villain is the hero of his own story. And that absolutely applies to Khan. You can always ask yourself much more specific questions. Well, is he the hero for personal gain? Is he the hero for this particular clique or subset of people that he's looking out for? Does he think that he is the hero on a larger, like a global scale? And you can look at people in history who have been absolute monsters, but thought that they were doing something that was for the greater good of humanity. So many, many ways to explore that. Peter, any other thoughts, comments, questions tonight?
No, I don't think I do. Just enjoying this podcast. I appreciate the writing that goes into it, because it is a challenge when you got all that, a big one. And so just looking forward to seeing how it all finishes out to get Khan to where we see him in Wrath of Khan. So
Excellent.
thanks
All right.
for having me on.
Well, thanks so much. Always a pleasure. We'll see you again. All right. Take care.
You too.
All right. Next up in the queue, I believe it is somebody who's been dropping some of the con puns in the chat. So,
Just
Alan.
a few.
Alan, welcome to the show.
And you dig it!
Of course. Of course. Coming in hot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course,
Wow.
Charlene, Kirsten, and you, John Champion. I never forget a face.
Oh.
This is why I showed up tonight. Look, I wasn't feeling good. I wasn't feeling that great today, but I knew that if I showed up here behind a mic, that Alan would call in, and that would
You
make
know
my
it.
day.
You know, several months ago, someone sent me a piece of paper that says you should be John Champion's friend, and I follow those instructions.
Like, it's going to be on a T-shirt at some point, okay? So
Probably.
Exactly. Yeah, it needs to be.
And Kirsten, if you're lucky, you won't get one of those because nobody needs that. Nobody needs that shirt. Alan, what is on your mind that's much more important and relevant and germane to the conversation?
I will try to. I'll try
Okay.
to rein it in. First of all, I've been loving the conversation so far tonight. Kirsten, thank you so much for this show. I love what's been going on so far. I love the performances. Naveen's great. Ren is great. All of our other Augment friends are fantastic. I'm so happy to see Star Trek embrace this format. In a weird way, audio drama sort of set me on the path that I went on as a career, because I did a project on audio drama in high school, which led me into a career in broadcasting, which I was in for many, many years up until very recently. So yeah, it's so cool to see Star Trek enter this space in a big, big way. And I do think that this is a proof of concept that this type of storytelling can work so well for Star Trek.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you're enjoying.
Yeah, and I do want to raise the bar a little bit. You guys were talking about Star Trek II and the Spock situation, and I just want to say that for me, that moment was Optimus Prime in The Transformers the movie, a a death that was so traumatic for people of my generation and my I guess interest base, that in subsequent airings on TV they had to add a little disclaimer at the end: "No kids, Optimus Prime's coming back, don't worry." And now all I can think of is the Star Trek 2 version of that voiceover of like, "No wait, kids, Spock's coming back. Look at the title of the next film. They're searching for him. He's coming back. Don't worry."
Oh my god.
It's like how every James Bond film when I was a kid had James Bond will return in blank. And then I got to be old enough that No Time to Die comes out and you're like, oh, well, apparently there was.
They still put that at the end of that movie too, didn't they?
They did.
And I was like, are you sure? Are you really sure?
All they need is a Genesis device. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Right. By the way, Nashira says in the chat, I came in late, but I wanted to say I appreciate the little bit of queerness that we've gotten in Khan. Yeah, Kirsten, just kind of looking at the overall scape of the writers who contributed to the show. Was that somebody's particular inspiration or just a feeling like, hey, let's all get behind this?
It was there from the beginning with Nick.
Yeah.
He had included a queer couple. It wasn't actually Ursula and Meadow. There was some character shifting that went on between but from the very beginning. I mean, all of us embrace infinite diversity and infinite combinations. Like, we're not, there is space and should be representation. Everyone should feel welcome in our universe. So, yeah.
Nicely said.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Alan, any other thoughts, questions, comments tonight?
Well, I guess the question that I had and kind of the main reason why I called in is that I was listening, I guess watching, it was on YouTube, so there was a picture present.
There you go.
But I was listening to episode 5, and I really, really wanted to thank you for having Marla give Khan that little history lesson about Zefram Cochrane, because first of all, it's true. That's really, in the world of Star Trek, that's literally how it happened, and that's a lesson for, hey, maybe reach out with empathy, maybe reach out with friendship instead of shoot first, ask questions later. But what really struck me too is that it immediately brought to mind a conversation that that I have had either on this show or elsewhere in our Discord about the episode in the recent season of Strange New Worlds, the one with where we see Kirk on the Farragut and they get attacked by the Raiders, and then the Enterprise shows up and they have to solve the problem. But spoiler alert, we find out that the Raiders are these humans from several hundred years in the past who had left Earth to go out into space.
Right.
They are described in the episode as the best of us, the brightest of us. And immediately when that line came up in the episode, my mind went, people who think they're better than other people, who gets put on a spaceship and sent off into space following a cataclysmic war. Where in Star Trek have I heard this before? And I guess my question, Kristen, am I wrong to be drawing this inference about these people in connection with Khan and the Augments?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, so it happened twice, No,
but it's but it is thematically, it's such rich Star Trek storytelling that it's not. There's probably 10 other things that if we really thought about it for a second, we could come up with.
Absolutely.
That were similar. The whole thing, this whole idea of what becomes of the best of us, the point you're making about, well, that if you see yourself that way, that could be maybe an indication that you are not, is very, very true. But I also think there is something like deeply sad in the notion that scientists sat down and tried to optimize these certain human qualities, and in our science fiction universe, they succeeded, right? And that these people were meant to epitomize and embody humanity's greatest strengths, and they still came to where they came to. Like, it's devastating to me to imagine that. And you could say, well, they got the strengths wrong. Like, the strengths aren't intelligence and ambition and whatever. The strengths are love and compassion and empathy. And maybe if they'd maximized for those, things would have gone differently. But it's such an important thing to think about. And to me, like, eternally fascinating. Like, there's just more story coming there. It's not, there's no answer, but it's fascinating.
Oh yeah.
Alan, go ahead.
Oh yeah, and to the question earlier, is Khan a hero or a villain, or is he both? Well, I mean, I think absolutely both. And yeah, we all see ourselves as sort of like, carrying things out for the best benefit. I think, Khan is absolutely a benevolent, caring, wonderful leader, as long as they're chanting his name. But
Right.
as we see this episode, the second there's some other party there that might have some sort of leg up on him and his group, they got to go. Sorry. And it's really, and again, it's Marla trying to bring the message of humanity and the message of the Federation, and the message of peace that, well, I'll let people watch and see how it turns out, but it's an interesting way that all of that plays out.
Yeah.
So, again, thank you for that. And I am very curious to see how all of this turns out. And, if nothing else, it's good to have it here, that we are all part of one big happy fleet.
Nicely done, Alan. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you, sir.
Take care.
buddy.
See you guys. Have a good one.
Yeah, we are coming up on the top of the hour. We'll have to wrap it up here pretty soon. Ashley in the chat says that she and many others are admiring the book collection in Kirsten's room. So, yes, we're just all gazing, just taking that in. And Shar, I want to save a last question for you before we wrap it up. But I do want to ask this kind of quickly, and I know that there is not a quick answer to this, but I'm very interested in not just fleshing out Khan, but Marla MacGyver's. Okay, were you going there too? Okay, good.
I really wanted to mention Marla at some point in this podcast because we hadn't touched on it yet. And the treatment of this character in this audio drama is amazing. Please continue.
No, I think you're probably going to echo similar to what I was thinking, at least. Watching Space Seed, there is a Marla MacGyver's there who is woefully incomplete, but just serves the plot enough to get us to the end of that episode. And I feel like there are traits of that Marla who is, certainly lacking depth, but we reveal all this other stuff about her being unhappy and ignored on the Enterprise, which I think it helps to flesh out that she's not just a victim in this role, where Khan comes along and he is the shiny new thing, so she follows him. Yeah. Can you talk to us here in a few seconds about what it took to shape that character in particular?
Well, the thing you have to remember is that, problematic as Marla is in the episode, we saw maybe 12 minutes of her life.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, she's a whole person too. And she's also in very different circumstances. Like, it's one thing to be a Starfleet officer on your ship, surrounded by your crew, dealing with a thing, and then find yourself the only human on an augmented world who is very much on the outside and needs to survive. And how is that going to change you and affect you? There's this conversation about it's such an abrupt difference. And I'm like, she's in an abruptly different circumstance. Like, I do think that it was very intentional, everything that we did with Marla from the very beginning. that, and it all really comes from the end. Khan in Wrath talks about the death of his beloved wife. And I simply could never wrap my brain around the idea that his beloved wife was this woman who was completely subservient to him, just served him and adored him and worshiped him. Like, he might have enjoyed that for a while. I think some people would, but the word beloved just carries such weight for me. And I'm like, something happened there to make that relationship much more than we would have thought it could have been in Space Seed, and I think a lot of it had to come from her.
Yeah, the way he says that line, his beloved wife, the delivery does say volumes. And I love that Marla holds her own in this situation, her very drastically new, different situation where she knows she's an outsider. She has to win the hearts and minds of these augments and not just be Khan's girlfriend, basically. And the way that she can get through to Khan in the way nobody else can is such a delight to hear those two in those private conversations. The actors, it amazes me that there was no recording together. You never had Naveen Andrews and Ren Schmidt in the same studio, which blows my mind, but I think is a great testament to both you and the director for being the great connectors and making sure everything fits.
Yeah, there were moments when we did some of the re-recording that had to happen at the end where you could play the performance of the other one for them as they were re-recording some lines or picking up some new dialogue or whatever. So that was fun, but that was as close it ever came to them being in the same room.
Gotcha.
Amazing.
All right, I've got the one last question that I have to ask.
Okay.
Because I'm a real junkie for extras, and I've got to know, do we have any kind of making of or interviews with cast and crew that might come from Star Trek Con? Because I will eat it up.
I know that there were interviews done when people were recording, and I was told a while ago, but I appear to have gotten busy, that I would be doing some interviews as well. So those have not happened yet, but I would guess the answer is yes. I just don't know when.
Okay.
Right. I love this plan. All right. Kirsten, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Great sport to chat with our audience. Shar, always a pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
As a reminder, we are off from Mission Log Live for at least a little while until Starfleet Academy comes back. But look, you never know. That's why we want you to subscribe, because if something pops up, we might just jump back into a live show and entertain your questions and comments. It depends. You know, maybe we'll come back.
You just never know what we'll do.
End of con, maybe a little Star Trek Scouts. Who knows? All kinds of stuff could happen between now and Academy. But follow us, subscribe, like, etc. And we certainly like all of you. So with that, Mission Log Live is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment. Technical production on Mission Log and Mission Log Live by the inevitable Earl Green. Be sure to visit podcast.roddenberry.com for the latest from Roddenberry Podcasts. If you'd like to support Mission Log directly, give us a look at patreon.com/missionlog. Thank you to everyone who joined us live or later. We look forward to seeing you all when we return with Star Trek Starfleet Academy.